Welcome to another episode of Truth on Tilt. We're going to start using this platform to introduce our new podcasters that are coming on to Pacific Lens Studio. Today, I am very happy to introduce Mr. Willie James. He is a man that has many of, I would say, a lot of the same values I do. The difference is I'm not as spiritual as he is. He has a strong belief in spirituality, a strong belief in helping youth, especially in athletics. And also the best part is he loves his family. He loves being a dad. So, Willie, why don't you tell us some about yourself? And welcome. Welcome, by the way.
Oh, very excited. Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity. So, I mean, just the way things kind of lined up, to me, once again, I just believe that it was ordained. You know what I mean? It just meant to be. We'll get into that, but it was really good. But yeah, I'm a dad first. I love God. You know what I mean? I've studied a lot of different religions, and I just love the spiritual aspect. Former athlete, right? Played in college, so I just love sports, and now I just really want to help the next generation coming up to maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that our generation had to deal with, and obviously just help them get personal trainer. So want to help them get stronger and just be well equipped to do what they need to do.
So let's first talk about your athletics. You played football and ran track in high school.
Yep, and basketball and volleyball.
Volleyball.
I won't say it's my favorite, but I love volleyball.
You don't see many black men on a volleyball team.
Yeah, which is it's a shame. I think especially in some of the more urban communities, right? I mean, you have athletes that can literally jump out of the gym, right? They can run 100 miles per hour. Man, on a volleyball court, we crush it. I think more just kids in general need to be playing volleyball.
I would love to see Spud Webb spike a volleyball.
Can you imagine? That would be insane. That would be insane.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
No, volleyball is an amazing sport.
Absolutely.
It's an amazing sport. It's a great team sport.
Right.
Basketball is a great team sport.
Yep.
Football is a great team sport. And even though track and field, because I was a swimmer, even though it's very individualized, it's still, when you do it as a team for a high school or for a university, it is amazing. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of our youth are missing today is the concept of team.
Absolutely. Yeah, my most fondest memories were high school, junior college, those van rides, right, to different schools or wherever we were competing, and it was just that camaraderie. When you get there, yeah, you have your individual sports and you're doing your thing, but I love competing on the relays, right, and then you just come off and you're just watching and you're supporting your team and your friends, and I mean those relationships I've maintained over the years much better than any other sport that I've played, especially basketball and football. But you're right. I really think that with just culture and everything so fast moving and individualizing me, I think we're really missing that camaraderie, those friendships, right? That bonding and really learning from each other and really supporting each other and not necessarily only competing against each other.
So you left high school, and then you went to junior college.
Went to junior college, literally right across the street.
So what was the purpose of JUCO versus just going D1 right out of school?
Well, I had the talent, but I didn't have the discipline. Now, once again, I love my family, but there was no one that I could follow that had done it, right? Especially men. Most of the men in my family or in my immediate circle, right? They had their own issues and things like that. So I was sort of I was the only one I was going to be the first one to kind of take that path. So I'm saying all that to say I was a knucklehead, right? I didn't know that I had ADHD back then. Really wasn't talked about, right? It was like.
It was hyperactive.
Yeah, you were just hyperactive.
Because that's what I was diagnosed with.
Yeah, or lazy. You know what I mean? And for sure didn't have the resources at the time to, get tested or, talk to a medical professional and stuff like that. So I just had a hard time focusing, right? Couldn't focus. So my grades weren't great, right? And so I had the talent. Everyone knew it. The good thing is I had always had a lot of people that I knew loved me and supported me. and they told me that I could do well, right? So I didn't grow up with this chip on my shoulder, you know, people telling me that I couldn't do things. It was the opposite, right? And so I had to go the JUCO route because that was the only avenue that I could go to at the time, because I just didn't have the grades, because I just wasn't able to focus, you know.
So what clicked in JUCO to get you ready?
Honestly, it was a coach. His name was Coach Harvey. I had some amazing coaches for track and field, and it just showed me what was possible, right? And even then, there was a lot of self-sabotage, obviously a lot of self-doubt, but it was a weird thing. So there was he was older. He was already in his mid-30s, right? He was in the Marines, had a family, doing his thing, but he came back because he still had eligibility. He could still compete at the junior college level, and he was on the relay team with me. And he when he came in, he changed the game. He basically became our personal strength and conditioning coach for our track team. But he was a member of the team. And
was it very militant?
He was very militant. You know what I mean? Because we didn't go to the weight room. We hit the track. We would do our workouts, and then we would go home, which was great, right? But he had us in the weight room. He helped us with mindset, things like that. And so we just started winning. We just started crushing people, you know. And no one expected anything from LA Valley College, but we ended up, you know, finishing the season, you know, second in the state, and just. It really set the page for where they are now, I believe, you know. So I'm really, really grateful for that. But yeah, it was ran like, in my eyes, right, with nothing to compare it to at the time, it was ran like an upper echelon D1 program, or just a 4-year school. And so that really got my mindset onto like, okay, first of all, I can do this. And it gave me a glimpse into kind of what would be expected and what I needed to do if I wanted to be successful. Because in my mind, basketball is my first sport, but track is I'm a natural sprinter, and so it just came naturally. But usually, hard work can beat talent, right? And so I had to learn how to work hard, right? I had to learn how to lose. I had to learn how to win. I had to learn how to do what was necessary. So, I'm grateful for that experience.
Yeah, what's the saying? Hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard.
Every time, man. So when I work with 6-year-olds all the way up until
66.
College. Yeah, I mean basically. But in terms of like athletes, I have I have a 6-year-old right now that I work with, and I have a water polo player that is graduating from Cal Lutheran this year, and so. But yeah, the main thing that we always talk about outside of the physical stuff is the mindset. You know what I mean? The mindset, and it's so huge, and that's something that I really, really focus on for myself, because every day is its own battle. You know what I mean? And that's where my faith really kicks in.
Wait till you turn 50, then the battle really becomes true, because now every morning when I wake up, I'm like, okay, what's going to hurt? That's the battle. Is it my knee? Is it my hip? Is it my back? Is it my brain? I mean, you're still young. You're not there yet.
Yeah, 36. But man, yeah, I got some wear and tear on this body for sure.
I'm sure you do, but you just wait.
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it all started, I used to make fun of my wife all the time because she had to wear readers at 44. And I'm like, oh, why are you wearing readers? And then all of a sudden, when I turned 50, boom, it was like overnight. I can't read a lick if I don't have glasses on.
Wow.
So here we go again with that whole thing. But, okay, so leaving JUCO, then how many D1 programs were interested in you?
None. None. I had to go out and form those relationships, From LA Valley, I went to a JUCO in San Diego. Continue to build relationships, and it's a crazy story. But my girlfriend at the time, she decided that she was going to go to San Diego State, and at the time I just didn't really have a whole lot, many prospects or a lot going on. So I was like, okay, let me try, right? And then went out there, built relationships with different coaches and things like that, and then things just sort of came together at that point.
So you finished your career playing football for San Diego State. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a great school.
Great school, great community. You know what I mean? If I had it my way and I had done things the more optimal way, for sure, I wanted to go to school out of state. You know what I mean? I grew up super sheltered, very strict. My mom had me like, she was very, tight-fisted, but, she wanted to protect me. It's something I can appreciate now, because, having kids and things like that, I get it, but also too, it didn't enable me to grow, the confidence in order to do life when I got to a certain age, and that's something that I'm working with. I'm pretty open about my mental health at this point, but I have a therapist and a psychiatrist that I work with, and I see regularly, and helping me to kind of unpack all my journey up until this point, so that I can understand kind of what's happened, so that I could do better going forward, and just really enabling me with the tools. So that's why, once again, my mental health is just so pivotal for me.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because my dissertation has a lot to do with mental health. And so, while I'm at Pepperdine, they offer, it's including the tuition, therapy, right? Wow. You can talk to a psychologist if you want. And I said, you know what, let me do this. And it was right before I retired from veterinary medicine. And it was the greatest thing I have done. I didn't realize how wonderful it is to talk to somebody, because they actually prepared me for what it was going to be like to retire. And I never in a million years would have thought about the things they were telling me that was going to happen. So as they did happen, I could check myself.
That makes sense, yeah, that awareness.
And I mean, so therapy is more, it's not you go to therapy once you have a problem. There's no problem sitting down and talking to someone, because first off, it's completely confidential, right? As long as you say you're not going to hurt yourself.
Or someone else.
It's completely confidential. And it actually will prepare you for those steps in life that you need to go to. I'm a big proponent for people to go sit down and talk to people. But again, it's has such a bad stigma about it still, even though it's more accepted.
And accessible.
Accessible, especially for kids in school, right? Whether they're in high school, they're in JUCO, they're in a regular university, in graduate school, it's included in the tuition. Take advantage of it. And the thing is, I always hear from students are like, "Oh, I don't want anyone at my university knowing my problems," and it's like, it's completely confidential. As long as you say you're not going to hurt yourself or someone else, it can't go anywhere.
And I mean, we're going to do it anyway, right? Like, your friends and maybe your significant other, your boyfriend, girlfriend, you're gonna go and blab to them about your day, what you're going through, what you've been through, and how you want to go about it anyway. Why not go and talk to someone who literally has the tools, right, to help you to really navigate those questions, concerns, or whatever you got going on. So I mean, it makes sense, but yeah, when you're at a certain phase of life, right, when you're a little bit younger, maybe say high school, things like that, right, you're so concerned about what people will think about you. So, that's something that I realize and kind of remember, because when I work with these kids now, I think how, what was my mindset back then? You know what I mean? Like, I'm on this side of it now, but I have to remember, my mindset at that time, and it helps me to maybe pull back a little bit and not be so pushy when I'm like, hey, you should be doing this, or when I know, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I think we just kind of forget where we were in certain phases of life, but it helps me to just give them that support, that love, and just be like, all right, I got you. Here's the resource, but when you're ready, you're ready.
Yeah. Therapy will mean nothing if you don't go do it for the right reasons, which is you want to do it. If someone else forces you to go do therapy, then it's more of a nuisance. It's like, it's not the same, but I kind of compare it to like a kid who has to take SAT prep or ACT prep. It's like, hey, this is just going to help you take the test better. But what kid really wants to do ACT or SAT prep, right? On a Saturday or a Friday night or on a Thursday night. They just don't want to do it.
No, of course not. Yeah, no. And you have to be ready. And I mean, for me, that's where I like the spiritual side kind of for me comes in, right? Because I believe, God, sort of prepares you for, what you need to do and what, what is coming. But if you're not ready for it, it's just because he hasn't called you yet for that. You know what I mean? And so that also allows maybe say me as a parent or as a coach to be patient, to know that, hey, if it's right for them, it's going to happen in the right time. I don't need to stress about it or worry about it or try to push it on them, because it's gonna make sense in due time.
So when did the spirituality kick in for you?
So I pretty much was raised in the church. My grandfather was a pastor. He had a church in LA, and every Sunday my mom would, whether I wanted to or not, you know what I mean, had me in there. And obviously at that age, like we just talked about, I didn't necessarily want to go. Right. I wanted to go to park. I wanted to go to the park and play basketball. I wanted to at very least stay in bed. But what I realized, and now what I am doing with my girls, is planting the seed. You know what I mean? Because when I really needed some direction in my life, towards the end of college and getting married and starting real life, I had an anchor. I had a direction to go in. You know what I mean? And it wasn't about being perfect or anything like that. It was just having hope. You know what I mean? It gave me hope that even though things aren't where I want them to be or where I feel like they should be or where I believe they will be, it's like, okay, if I keep working, if I keep doing the things that I'm supposed to do, then things will work out, and that hope is everything, because my mental health was in the trash, you know what I mean? And without it, I wouldn't be here today, believe it or not.
What do you say to people when they believe their spirituality is all they need and that they don't need therapy?
Well, I would say that, God, where do you think the help, these therapists, this whole, practice, where do you think it came from? You know what I mean? It came, he gave us these tools on earth, you know what I mean? And so I try to remind people that, he gives you everything that you need. So it's not just, this umbrella or this cloud that you can rest under and, okay, he's just going to drop things on you. No, you got to go out and do the work, and whether it's accepting help or, now, right, a Google search, you can find anything, do a simple Google search and find some help, but you gotta walk it out. You know what I mean? You have to be willing to walk it out. And that's, you gotta, there's some accountability there. You gotta look in the mirror and say, I need help, right? Or I want help. Once again, you're gonna talk to somebody anyway. Why not talk to someone who can actually help you?
I wish we could do a Google search for God's homepage.
Man, yeah. But and once again, this is me personally. He's right here in our hearts. I believe that. You know what I mean? That little voice in your head telling you to, do maybe the optimal thing versus the thing that, you know what I mean, is really like tugging on you and pulling on you to do. That's, to me, that's God. That's that little voice in your head. That's that, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the consciousness. You know what I mean? Like we all know we all have an idea of the direction that we should go in, right? But we usually tend to take the easier route, right? Maybe stumble a little bit and then start to go back in the right direction and then stumble again. But I think that's the mercy, that's the love, that's the patience that we're blessed to have, from above.
Right. Well, the one thing I really love about religion is for people who need something to anchor them and believe in, right, it's available. Mm-hmm. What I hate about religion, and that's why I want to talk to you especially, number one, I think there's no separation of church and state anymore. Number two, I think people take advantage of people's spirituality.
For sure.
And number three, I think spirituality is sometimes forced onto people. Mm-hmm. What would you have to say to any of those?
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I was, me and my fiance, we have these conversations all the time because she's I'm not speaking for her, but in my mind, right, she's in the process of accepting, this Christian faith. You know what I mean? And just like we just spoke about, you can't force someone to do something before they're ready, right? Before God calls them. That's the way that I see it. And one thing that I try to remind people of, and just remind myself of, right, is that religion is perfect. People are not, right? So as people are trying to, in my mind, trying to do their best to live in this way and to, it becomes a performance, right? And it pushes people away, and so, we talk a lot about, or me and my fiance, we talk a lot about sort of the like abortion or gay rights and things like that. And for me, my understanding and what resonates with me in terms of the spirituality is my number one job is to love, right? So I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what you do on Friday nights. If me and you get along and we can have a conversation and you treat me right and you're cordial with my girls when they're around, we're good. We're good. It's no different than, you know what I mean? You being a meat eater and me being vegan, or you liking mayo and I like mustard. You know what I mean? It's that simple for me, because at the end of the day, at least in terms of Christianity and most religions that I know, it's to love, right? It's not to judge. You know what I mean? Because with love and just acceptance and just letting people be whoever they are, a world of doors open in terms of relationships, and things can happen. And I could learn, even if you're not like here. I just shared this with my fiance. When I met her, she was very adamant on, she's not a big religious person. She was raised Catholic, but we tend to go in opposite directions that our parents want us to go, right? But I told her, I felt peace and comfort in still choosing her as a partner because she was a good person. She had a great heart. You know what I mean? And just because she didn't go to church on Sundays or know a verse from the Bible, that doesn't mean that, we couldn't spend time together or obviously fall in love, right? Begin a family. And so it's I don't know. I think we need to anchor. We feel the need to like anchor ourselves to something, right? I'm vegan. I'm a football player. I'm this or that. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're people. We're people. And so, when I met you, I didn't know you from a man on the moon, but you shook my hand. There was a smile there, and I had an open heart. You had an open heart, and here we are. And I think that is the most important thing. And once again, if you listen to your heart and you make the decision to go in a direction, I would urge anyone to, for themselves, right, just almost be prepared for the humanness to come out in some respect, right? There may not be people that are so accepting, but understand that that's them. That's not the religion. You know what I mean? They don't represent 100% of the religion. They're just doing what they think is best. It's their interpretation of it, but that doesn't make it right. You know what I mean? I've been to several churches. I've never had a bad experience. You know what I mean? But I've been to churches where there are people of the LGBTQ community in the church, and they were very accepting. I've also been to churches where they weren't. You know what I mean? But it's at the end of the day, it's everyone's interpretation of it, and you have to find your people. I think that's the thing, And I have a tendency to just oversimplify things. That's just the way my brain works. But once again, to me, it's the religion is perfect, people are not.
Yeah, I mean, well, going back to something you said religion is perfect, people are not. I think that's exactly how, unfortunately, they market religion.
Okay.
They guilt people into believing that they're not good enough because they haven't accepted God into their heart or accept Jesus into their heart. And I'm coming from, I went to undergrad in North Carolina, the Bible Belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
We literally would have people standing on campus from churches around the area yelling at young women that they were sinners because they were wearing, cut off jean shorts or bikini top, even though my school in Wilmington, North Carolina was on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would scream at them people would scream that they're sinners and that, they need to go ask for forgiveness just for what they were wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's the problem, right? You look at media nowadays and only the extremes get attention.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I still have, that's why I have so many issues with organized religion. I don't have an issue with me telling someone, do I believe there's a God? Yes. Is it a man or a woman? I hate that debate. It's a spirit. Yeah. Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe that you need to be that person that needs to go to church all the time to be considered religious or spiritual.
No, absolutely not. And first, for sure, I just want to make it clear. I'm not a pastor. Never been to seminary. You know what I mean? It's just this is just what makes sense to me. But yeah, no, I mean for sure. We just got back into church, or I just got back into church in the last, let's say, 2 months, right? Because I was missing the community aspect, right? I wanted to be around like-minded men, right, who would help me and motivate me to be the person that I want to be. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what that would entail, but I was getting that tugging and that pull, because I haven't had that experience in my everyday life. And so that's why I got back into church specifically. I wholeheartedly don't believe in, oh yeah, if you don't, go to church or go to whatever religion it is, your institution, then you're not really a believer. No, I don't believe that at all. But I do believe that there are benefits to being around like-minded people, right? Ideally, right, good people. You know what I mean? Now, you go to church and, you can go and do your thing on Sundays. But if you come out of church and you're treating your spouse less than optimal, or you're gossiping, or this and that,
or you're flipping the bird at the guy in the parking lot.
Exactly. You know what I mean? What really have you gained from that relationship, right? Because I believe that religion is a relationship, right? It's not something that I'll put a satchel on or put a badge on or whatever, or something on my bio on Instagram, and now all of a sudden I'm that. No, it's how you live. You know what I mean? It's no different than any other relationship, right? You meet someone that you like, right? Maybe you make a guy friend or whatever, and he's really cool, but he's really successful in business. You're going to want to emulate that. You're going to ask him questions. You're going to want to spend time with him, right? You're going to try to pick his brain because you want what he has. To me, it's the same thing in terms of like community, and spending time with those people on that specific day and time, in whatever religious body it is. And so, is it absolutely necessary? No, but is there a great benefit? Yes, to me.
Well, I'm curious. It's because you said many churches,
yes,
right?
Yes.
How long did it take you once you're there and you're like, oh, this is not for me? I mean, because when it comes to choosing a church or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever, I think you said like-minded. You're looking for the same value beliefs, I would think.
Well, yes, right. Like for me, it's not, and I'm not judging, right? I was a young man once. I was a single man at a certain point. It's not going to benefit me, my mind or my body, to be around other young men who aren't married and maybe they don't have kids, or maybe they do, but they're objectifying women, right? Especially because I'm in a gym setting, right? So you see a little bit of everything, right? And so I'm not judging, but I know for me personally, right? Because I've had my days, right? As a young man, I know that once I start thinking that way and start speaking that way, the direction that my body can then go in with my actions, right? And I love my family. I don't want to lose my family. You know what I mean? And I have 3 girls. I don't want to be that example for them when they come of age and they're of a certain level of consciousness and they're like, oh, that's, my dad did that? Okay. You know what I mean? I don't want them to choose that guy, And so I kind of lost track of focus there. What was your question? I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're looking for the same values.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's because that's what's on my heart. You know what I mean?
Correct.
That's what's on my heart. But if I meet someone in that space and they're of that, once again, I'm not judging. I love them, but I know I need to spend less time with that person. I'm not going to avoid them. I'm not going to talk bad about them, but I'm not going to latch onto that relationship the same way that I would a guy that I just connect with, and he has some of the things or doing some of the things, speak in the way or think in the way that resonate with me in my heart. That's it.
Absolutely. I mean, well, getting back to the whole girl dad thing, obviously I have 3 daughters as well. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you, because my daughters are older, it is great to hear from my daughters that they want to find somebody who treats them like I treated my wife and I treated them, mm-hmm. right? So yes, they do look at that father figure as that's what I'm shooting for. Yeah. And then I kind of felt as a father, hey, the joke is always right. Keep them off the pole, right? Keep them off the pole. But no, I felt like I actually did my job as a father when I had my two older daughters. One's out of college, one's in college, saying they're looking for someone who's just like me.
Wow.
And it really brought on a huge family debate when my oldest daughter was dating this one guy, and she's like, Dad, he's just like you. But I could see the things he did. Example was she just had moved to the new town with him, which, no, you never follow a guy. So that caused strain in the relationship.
Okay.
But
so I just want to put a bookmark in that. I would like to come back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. But then they went on vacation.
Okay.
They got in a fight on the plane home. He got in the car and left her at the airport in a town that she's only lived in for 2 weeks.
Yikes. Yeah.
And I looked her at the eye and I said, in a million years, no matter how much your mom and I ever bicker, do you think I ever would have left her or my family at the airport in a town that they don't know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, as
but,
a girl.
But also, right, and not making any excuses, right, I guess it's just perspective, I guess, or my perspective, right? They're young, right? No kids yet, right? And you have this mindset or this perspective because you would never leave your family there, right? And not to say that it's...
I would have never left my girlfriend there.
No, for sure. Right?
I mean, come on.
For sure.
What kind of dick do you have to be to fucking leave your girlfriend at an airport
100%.
where she knows nothing?
Right. It's a total power move. It's a total young man move. You know what I mean? And there's jerks in the world. You know what I mean? But there's... Yeah, that's super unfortunate. Yeah. So was that like an "I told you so" moment? Like, hey, you shouldn't have gone out there. You may not have said it, but did you think it?
You know, it's crazy because God does work in crazy ways. She always told me that since like in 9th or 10th grade, she was babysitting a boy who had autism, and then she always would come home because she was also and eventually a D1 athlete, but she was an athlete. She's like, I want to work for the Special Olympics.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. As a father, you got to support their dreams, but
right.
in the back of your head, you're like, how the hell is that going to put food on the table, right? Because
right.
it's a great
That's
place
fair.
to volunteer.
Right.
But work, it's a nonprofit.
Right.
It's very the emotional labor that goes in with it.
Right.
That's in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so her and that boy broke up, and she's stuck in her town. A job opened up at the Special Olympics in the town that she was in. And all of a sudden, she got this job working right underneath the president of the Special Olympics in Oklahoma. And she hasn't looked back.
Wow.
So it's weird, like, again, not being a very spiritual religious guy, I still have to sit there and think, how the hell did that happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why right on the surface, it's like, oh, well, she's in love and she's following this guy and this and that, right? But there's a reason why she felt peace with that. Because on the other end of it, she could have been in love and all this and all that, but didn't feel peace about moving, right? Obviously, right, you raised some smart young ladies, smart young women, right? And I'm pretty sure they had and have, right, a very good level of discernment, right? Just assuming. And so she very well could have just been in love and be like, we're going to do something long distance or we're going to go in separate directions. But she didn't. You know what I mean? Because I believe it, right? Like you said, right? God works in mysterious ways. And now she's able to live out her dream, right? And go after what she communicated to you that she wanted, which might not have been as available if she had stayed here.
Right. The funny thing is, you always talked about getting out of the California bubble, undergrad. I really preach that to all the kids I talk to, especially the athletes, because I'm like, use this as a chance to get out of here because this is probably the only time your parents are willing to pay for you to go somewhere for 4 years or travel to see you for 4 years. Right. So take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. My two older daughters have already said, no intention of coming back to California. Mm-hmm. None.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Gives me a place to go travel somewhere. But the thing is, the one thing my older daughter said is the values are different.
Yep. I think people actually have values in other places. You know what I mean?
No, they act on their values.
There
Everyone
we go.
has
There we go.
values,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like my biggest value to myself is integrity. Like I do the right. I make sure I try to do the right things even when someone isn't looking.
That's good.
Right?
Yep.
And I think at least where we live, I think a lot of people lack integrity.
Right.
Oh, you have my word? The second someone tells me that, I don't trust them. You have my word. No, I don't.
Right.
I don't. I don't have your word.
Let me see what you do with it. Yeah.
Actions. Yeah. And that's like when I looked at you and I said, "Hey, you want to do a podcast?" I go, "Let's get it done." The only way I'm going to prove to you, because you really didn't know me from Adam,
Right.
was let me get you in here. Let me get you on here. Let me introduce you to everybody. Let me show you what we're doing, and let me get you excited about it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. You know?
So, through your spiritual journey, how many people have you met that have used religion as, I don't want to say a crutch, but as a like, hey, I'm a religious guy, you got to believe me?
You know what? Thankfully, not a lot. Or honestly, I can't think of anyone at the top of my head where that was the case. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Obviously, it happens. But, you know, what I've struggled with, and I'm acknowledging it most recently, is, you know, building those relationships. Because what I've seen and experienced in my everyday life is exactly what you're talking about. You know, just so it's not necessarily in the religious standpoint, but just I've seen it, you know, growing up, you know, and with being let down by the people that are closest to me, that there's just this inherent trust, right? And expectation, and them not being able to, you know, come through on their word. But that's just a way of life. That's been a way of life that I'm familiar with in my life. And so learning to trust, you know, even trust God, right? And not take matters into my own hands, or you know, do something out of fear, making decisions out of fear and doing things like that. So thankfully I haven't been tainted religiously in that way. And that's something that I always talk about too when I do speak about my faith. It is it's different than maybe what obviously some people, but a lot of people experience. And so I am aware of that. But yeah, it's like you said, it's super important to be of integrity. And for me, it's love, right? Which is, it's all encompassing. You know what I mean? If I love you, right? Obviously we're talking more than romantic, but if I love you, I'm going to try to honor you. I want to, you know, make you comfortable. I want you to know that you can trust me, and that I trust you. And so that is something that I'm working on now as an adult. You know, I'm 36 now. As an adult, working on my part, you know, building those relationships, and in a godly way. You know what I mean? Because that's my anchor. You know, and I, you know, not perfect, and that's something that I haven't really focused on, and I want to focus on that now.
So when you look back growing up, do you think spirituality would have helped you get out of your situation better?
What do you mean?
Well, I because, you know, obviously on our platform, on our show, we're trying to help give people a voice that need it, right?
Right.
And I think looking into urban communities, a lot of these young, very gifted, smart, so they're gifted in the books, or they're gifted in athletics, or they're gifted in arts, right? Musicians and all that.
Absolutely.
But they're stuck.
Yep.
How much does spirituality would help them get out of their situation?
I mean, I think tremendously. Now, the thing is, right, when you get into those communities, right, you know, obviously there's not a lot of resources and things like that. You know, you got to have some hope, right? But what happens is, right, especially with the super talented and, you know, people that have the most potential, you're going to have people around you that say, especially for us, right, or you're acting different. You're acting like you're not black, right? I can only speak on the, you know, black experience, I guess. But you're acting like something different. And then in your mind, you're like, no, this is my gift. I love you. You know, I would like to go and be successful, go and do something so that I can come back and give back. But what ends up happening is they make you feel, not everyone, but a lot of people that maybe never acted out on their own potential, right? They make you feel bad, and then if you don't have the right people around you, right, or you don't have someone, right, that really speaks life into you, you're gonna, start to go in the opposite direction. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be seen as, you think you're better than anyone, or, you're trying to be basically of another race. What we always hear is, oh, you're acting white. You know what I mean? If you enunciate your words, if you I don't know, just do certain things, you're all of a sudden not black anymore, and it's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. If you go back and you know anything about Black history in this country or beyond, obviously, right? I mean, we can do anything. Anybody can do anything, first of all, right? Mm-hmm. But we can do anything. You know what I mean? But somewhere along the way, I don't know, this hip hop culture or something, got started messed up our mind as a community, to where we think that we need to just be in a certain place economically, and then we'll be accepted. But it's like that's the that's the dumbest thing, right? Because it's super popular with, like, I guess, like celebrities, right? They go back to their communities and they end up getting themselves killed, right? Because someone is mad that they actually made it. You know what I mean? Someone is mad that they were successful, and it's like, wait a minute, why aren't we being embraced? And then because you want to be cool, right? You want to be cool, you want to be accepted, you want people to talk nicely about you. We know this now, but you got people still going back. You know what I mean? And putting themselves in harm's way. And me personally, no. Like, I'm going to take my family and go where we are going to be safe. I don't care what you say about me. I don't care how you feel about me, because that's the goal. That is the goal. You know what I mean? Build yourself up. Use your gifts, expand on those gifts, and then give back. In whatever area that you can safely. And that's where I'm at.
Right. Well, the biggest problem is, like, the influencers,
Mm-hmm.
right? Let's just talk influencers, because that's the thing. Mm-hmm. Influencers nowadays, children are, would you say, following the wrong influencers? Like there's no popular religious influencer.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I don't know anyone with that level of, like, say, like a Jake Paul. I don't know anyone on that level that is also pushing, a religion, or honestly doing anything right. You know what I mean? And I could be totally wrong. I don't know, really anyone of that level, but I don't see these people, you know what I mean, at talking to kids in schools, or giving out turkeys on Thanksgiving. Does that alone make you a good person? No, because you could have cameras there and you can be, whatever. You could be doing it just for the cameras, but it's. I guess to answer your question, yeah, I think people are following the wrong, or these youth have a tendency to follow because it's popular, it's cool, and they think that this fame and maybe the money that comes with it is gonna make them less depressed. They think if they have 1 million friends around them, it's gonna make them happy. But once we get on the other side of it and we hear some of these horror stories, right, of maybe child actors or just celebrities, period, right? Jim Carrey is. I love Jim Carrey, and he talks about it all the time. You know what I mean? He said he wishes that everyone had all the money in the world and all the celebrity, and then they would understand that it's not going to give you what you think you want. It's not going to make you happy. It's not going to bring you peace. But that doesn't get talked about, and I think, right, because when you're of a certain age, right, growing up, and even into adulthood, especially now. We're always in our ego, right? We're always in our ego. And so as long as we are, in this arrested development, right, mentally and cognitively, I think it's just easier to not have to, I don't want to say work hard, but, challenge yourself nowadays. And so I feel like these kids are going to be in real trouble in this real arrested development where they're just going for the easy thing, and then they get it. and then they realize that it's not everything. They're going to be depressed. There's be way more substance abuse and issues just across the board because we're just stuck in this cycle. You know what I mean? I really believe that the generations of like groundbreaking innovators and things like that is I don't want to be dramatic, but I really feel like it's coming to an end.
So who do you think would be the best influencers right now for the youth?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I love music. I love hip hop. Honestly, I think it's just anyone who is just really being honest about like their journey. You know what I mean? I think when you have people that are not just talking about, the money and the parties and the clubs and the this like that, but really talking about their mental health, right? Talking about, and I think it's people who have experienced, right, the ultimate highs, and now so they have this awareness, and then they had a downfall, and now they're vocal or they're willing to communicate about like the real journey. You know what I mean? Because that's the roller coaster that I think everyone who has accomplished anything have been on. But when you're just talking about the perfect life or the good things, I think these kids are like, yeah, I want that. You know what I mean? And if I get that, I won't have any more issues. My boyfriend's never gonna break up with me. I'm gonna have all the money, and that's gonna solve all my issues. And they need to know from the people that are cool, whoever that might be for that individual person, they need to know that that's not going to happen. You need some sort of anchor.
So are there any religious heads you would think would be good?
I honestly, I think it's so subjective. I think it's so subjective. I think, everyone needs to find that for themselves, right? Because you could have someone who's super popular. You could, I don't know Beyonce from A Man in the Moon, you know what I mean? But you can have a girl who really loves Beyonce. Beyonce can come down from heaven and talk to this person, and it'll resonate, but she talks to her friend and it won't resonate. You know what I mean? So I really think, all right, here we go.
Her friend will look at her like she's crazy.
Her friend will look at her like her crazy, yeah, because it just doesn't resonate. You know what I mean? I think these kids need to figure out a way to like tap into their heart. And honestly, I don't want to be that guy. Forgive me, but I think prayer is so important. You gotta have the people that care about you. If that's their thing, right? Some variation of prayer, speaking to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and really, praying for the people that they care about. You know what I mean? Because that amplifies, right, the good vibes, all that stuff, and that I think that's super duper important. But it's not cool. It's not cool. It's not popular. It's not talked about. But I'm a big believer in prayer, and I don't think that you have to be religious to pray, right? Because just like me and you were conversing, just like we talked about several times, right? And during this podcast, we're gonna talk to somebody, or we're gonna be talking, good things or negative things in our own head. Why not kind of aim that in that direction? You know what I mean?
And I'm going to give that argument that everyone says, "Oh, I don't pray." When you get on an airplane and you're like, "Oh shit, I hope we get there safely," I hate to tell you, that's a prayer.
Absolutely. It's
just because you're not sitting there, we head bowed, oh, Holy Ghost and Spirit and the Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. Just by saying, this plane better fucking get there safely. I don't want to die. Mm-hmm. That's a prayer.
And that language right there, people think, oh, you have to be perfect. And
no.
You be you. You know what I mean? You want to say fuck and ass or whatever. You use that language because that's, you know what I mean? That's you being real. You know what I mean? You don't have to postulate,
Right. Just be yourself. Know your truth. Know where you're coming from. I mean, trust me, the one thing I know from the Jewish religion is that God does not judge.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. Yep.
And I think that's where Jewish and Christianity, in my opinion, is so different. Okay. Because I think a lot of the churches do judge.
Absolutely. Right.
And where in the synagogue, I never, ever got judged, even though I was an absolute prick in Sunday school, in Hebrew school. Like, I was awful because I didn't want to be there, right? So I was, and I also had ADHD, but they called it back in this 80s hyperactivity. They never judged. And that's, I guess, one of the other issues I have with Christianity and also the radical Islam is, and I'm not comparing Christianity to radical Islam, but I'm just comparing that there is judgment.
For sure. I think once again, it's hard it's hard to accept a person, or especially an ideology, when you yourself are seeing things right in the text and you're like, well, I do that. Okay. You know what I mean? I'm going to be judged before you even step into any particular four walls. But I think that's where, you once again, I think, you got to have the awareness of, all right, you can't put all your eggs in one basket type of thing, right? So you got to be prepared to, hey, right, and obviously it's a luxury of sort, right? Because we live in Southern California, of all places. There's a church on every corner, this and that, right? So if you're in a small town and there's one church, and that church happens to not be for you, that sucks. You're in a tough spot. I understand that, but from my perspective, it's like, I didn't. When we first met, I didn't come in, assuming that you would like me, but also didn't assume that you wouldn't like me. I just brought my best foot forward, and things are happening as they should.
I don't like
you. Know
you.
what I mean?
I don't like you.
Well, you know what? Sometimes I wake up, I don't like myself, but that's where my faith comes in again. You know what I mean? Got to keep going. But yeah, no, it's But you're right. I studied Islam for a while, and there's a lot of things about it that I really identify with, and there's a lot of practices and whatnot that I also brought into my Christian faith. You know what I mean? And that resonates with me. But obviously, right? They're not the same. I'm not saying that, but they all came from the same source, right? Abraham. And so you're going to find a lot of, similarities, but also a lot of differences. That's why they're different religions. But I mean, yeah, you're going to be judged no matter what. But you gotta keep going, and you can't let that detour you. What I do think the disadvantage for today's youth and people coming up is there's, I don't want to be mean, but they're just weak. You know what I mean? Because it's so easy to access things, right? We can order Amazon, same day, right? We can order, DoorDash, it comes right to you. And so we don't know how to wait anymore. We don't know how to, really strive and get through, trek through the mud to really get what we want anymore. Right?
The grind.
The grind is not there. The real grind. It's not there.
But, the grind is different now than it was when you and I were younger. Mm-hmm. The grind now is, how do I put food on the table? How do I pay my mortgage? How do I pay California gas prices? How do I do this? So the grind now, in my opinion, now that I'm older, all comes down to money.
For sure. But
not
see, that's your
life.
grind, though. But see, that's your grind, right? Because
it's not your grind in Southern California.
No. I'm not saying that I don't think about those things, especially as an entrepreneur, right? Like I'm thinking more so towards like, people in a more of a developmental stage, right? You know what I mean? They're thinking, how can I get people to like me? You know what I mean? So their whole identity is in the amount of likes and in the amount of people that like them. You know what I mean? Yeah, when you get to a certain point, yeah, you got to think about putting food on the table. But everyone's just thinking, all right, if I can get popular enough, I'll be fine, right? The money will come in somewhere, somehow, and then I'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, for sure, yeah, the as a dad, as an entrepreneur, yeah, for sure, the grind is definitely different. I want people to like me, but at the same time, I want to work with people that I vibe with, and that I learned that from one of my clients. We used to work together. She also has a podcast. Her name is Angie Wisdom. She really, really like just punched that message into my head until it made sense. Because, as a trainer, you think it's a numbers game, but it's really not. It's about relationships. You know what I mean? And so I really focus on allowing, not just getting to know them and their goals and what, how they want their body to look, right, numbers wise and things like that, but letting them also get to know me, right, my vulnerabilities, within reason. You got to have some boundaries too, but and building those relationships, and in building those relationships, I met Josie, right? And all my clients come, by word of mouth. Social media has done zero for me. I've gained zero clients on social media, and all my clients, since I've been at the gym where I'm at, they've been with me almost my whole entire duration being at that gym, which is almost 3 years. And once again, me personally learning the value of relationships, like real relationships, and it's been a game changer. You know what I mean? And I think that is part of the grind that's going to be really, really hard for these young people coming up now too, because in the social media world, right, it's all about people liking you.
Instant gratification,
but also people liking you. And so in your mind, if people see that you're not perfect, well, they're not going to like you. They're not going to be your friend anymore. And then now you're one less friend, where it's just a numbers game.
And I wish I could, and kids don't understand that. And I want to call bullshit on that comment, because the people that get the most likes and go viral are the ones that are being imperfect. I know the Haktua girl. Come on.
Yeah.
There's nothing perfect about that.
No.
But it was viral.
Yeah.
People, the Darwin Awards, the deep frying of turkeys and catching the fucking house on fire because they figured it's cold outside. Let me do it in the garage.
Right.
Right.
You're right.
There was the lady who had all her illegal fireworks go off in the back of her minivan, and it was caught on the Ring doorbell.
What? I haven't seen that one. That's insane.
But I mean, those are imperfections that do go viral. If you're going to stay perfect and expect life to be perfect, life is going to be an absolute disappointment.
Right. True. That's true.
So I bookmarked something in my head. I love the fact you said you're an entrepreneur. How does your spirituality and entrepreneurship combine? Because entrepreneurship is all about risk taking.
Right.
Your mic is falling just a little. You want to make sure it's kind of up. Back.
Remember you said he was going to
You better edit this shit out. We're on a roll, dude.
I know. You guys are getting good stuff. Make sure it's in a
See,
good spot.
it's this thing right here. This thing right here is acting up. We got to tighten that. There we go. It was falling, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go.
A little down.
Is that better?
It is.
There you go.
We're better.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go back.
Yep.
I'm going to wave my hand so you know where to splice it. So going back to entrepreneurship and risk-taking and spirituality. How much does your spirituality truly allow you to take risks, or entrepreneurship's all about risks?
I never really thought about how they're tied together. But I mean, if you look at it, right, it's, faith is what got me here, honestly. My journey as a trainer started in 2018. I got connected with someone who owned a group fitness gym, right, and got in and just start, doing my thing. I'm really good with connecting with people, right, and that's kind of hard for me to say because I was, raised to be humble and not really, talk about yourself or brag about yourself, which was once again, something that I got to give Angie Wisdom credit for helping me with. But anyway, did that for about a year. And then just one day, go ahead.
So you thought you're an introvert?
Yes. I consider myself an introvert. But when I'm around people that I vibe with, it's just a different thing. It's totally, and that's something that I learned to appreciate, to appreciate. Betty, she's told me several times, stop saying that you're just a trainer. You know what I mean? Stop saying that you're just this. Just stop putting limitations on yourself. Language matters. You know what I mean? But in my head, I'm trying to be humble. I'm trying to show you that I don't think I'm better or bigger than you. You know what I mean? Because I consider myself to be a great trainer. And so you have people that come up to you and they think of you maybe as in a certain light. And I just want people to be comfortable around me. And so I guess I've, at a certain point I started to maybe not degrade, but start to speak in a certain way where it was, I just say I'm putting limitations on myself. But anyway, so 2018 started as a trainer. Within that organization, I meet I don't know his title, but I just go up to him after a class, right? And I'm like, hey, I know I'm new here, but hey, if you have any openings for, just so I can learn and grow, like even a month later, he calls me. He's like, hey, you want to be the director at this at a location, right? Which is basically like the manager of that gym. And I was like, well, I don't have any experience, this and that. And he's like, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you, blah, blah, blah. And got that position just because I opened my mouth, and it was just like, I knew I wanted to grow, and something told me to do it. So that my faith, I was acting out on faith, right? That ended up working out, ended up being, going back down to trainer, end up getting connected with these other guys, another organization. They were just brand new, opening up a gym. They were actually a little bit younger than me, and I was going to be their first trainer, right? And I had no reason to leave what I was doing. I was hustling, I was grinding. I knew how much I was going to make every 2 weeks, and I was comfortable. But something in me was like, you should take this opportunity. Went there, it was group fitness and then a little bit of personal training. So I ended up learning a lot, growing, and ended up being there for almost 3 years. Things started to fall apart naturally. I'm a big believer that when God...
Well, COVID, right?
Actually, no. COVID didn't stop anything. Didn't stop anything. We started training, doing classes virtually. I started doing my personal training virtually for the people that wanted to do it. And so I don't want to be insensitive, but COVID was really good for me because I actually learned kind of a skill in terms of like operating online primarily. So that didn't stop anything at all. But once we came back from COVID, I'm a big believer that when God is ready to promote you of sorts, He makes you uncomfortable where you're at. I'm a big believer in that. And so it was not a coincidence that things started to fall apart at where I was, and it was time for me to go. And at that exact same time, I met Webb at the gym where I'm at, and it just so happens that a member there ends up working at Turf. She calls me over for a photo shoot, right? Super random photo shoot. She's like, hey, we're doing this photo shoot with this brand or whatever, blah blah blah. I'm thinking I'm gonna get maybe a couple bucks or just some free gear, right? No harm, no foul. Come over, meet everyone, everything's great, and then Webb contacts me a short time later and starts talking to me about basically starting my own company, right? Entrepreneurship. And I had no idea, and I'm nervous. I'm like, he's like, how many people do you think will come with you? I have no idea, because this other gym is in Huntington. It's in Newport. I'm aware, obviously, some people can't, whatever, make the trek, whatever. And it was another fork in the road, right? But my faith was telling me, or my heart was telling me, this is the right thing to do, right? Pretty much got the green light from the missus, right? Because we already had now I got 3 kids, right? And I have no idea what I'm doing, and I don't personally, I don't even know anyone who has started their own business or worked for themselves, right? And so but my faith and Betty, gave me the green light, and here I am now, and I am the happiest that I've ever been. And I get to do what I love for a living. And so to answer your question, I never thought about it literally until this moment. But yeah, my faith and entrepreneurship are tied in the fact that
You
it's
believe
okay
in
for
yourself.
me to take risks. Exactly. Yeah. And so now I feel another tugging of like, all right, well, it's time to go to the next level, and I don't know what that is, but I'm just ready. I'm ready to say yes without a doubt, because I have evidence that it's worked. He's brought me through before.
Yeah. Well, the beauty about entrepreneurship is it's a gamble, but guess what? You're gambling on yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
And to me, that's not gambling.
Right.
Right? It's if I give someone else money to go start a business, then that's truly a gamble.
Right.
But if it's me, and I know my work ethic, and I know my values, and I know my worth, I'm going to be successful.
That's true. I always say I always, I don't know, if someone asks me, hey, do you do this or that? I'm like, I don't gamble, but I'll gamble on myself, right? If you told me, hey, I'll play a game of basketball for $5, I'll do that in a heartbeat. But you know what I mean?
I ain't playing you in basketball.
But you tell me,
let's get in the swimming pool.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I can't swim. I can't swim, but I want to learn.
Yet you train water polo players.
It's insane.
That's the craziest
to get
thing.
stronger. I know, but it's brought me, man. It's because when I met Josie, she's my first. She's actually not, but so when I first started working with the water polo player, I told you about from Cal Lutheran, did a ton of research, like because at the end of the day, you just have to help them. You just have to make them strong, right? And they're gonna do what they got to do with their sport specific stuff anyway. So it's really simple. But I can't swim, but my daughters are actively in swimming lessons as we speak.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I'm like they're not gonna go that route as me, but. Right, I mean it's funny, but it's true. There's not a lot of swimming pools in our neighborhoods coming up. You know what I mean? Because it's just different, right? We're living on top of each other, and so it's funny. But I'm like, I won't say my mission, but my goal in life is to be less of a stereotype, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And I'm okay if quote unquote my people talk shit about me. You know what I mean? I look forward to it. You know, I got my shorts on. You know what I mean? I drink my lattes. I take care of business, and my family loves me. So I'm not tied to my skin color. I love it. I honor it. You know, I just found out that I'm 50% Nigerian, so I'm doing more research on that to try to understand, you know, what that is and what that means in the history and all of that. So, but you know, my kids are half Mexican. You know what I mean? I'm black. My fiance, she's Mexican, and so I'm not tied to, you know, I'm not in this mindset of like I'm just gonna do everything the way that it's always been done. I'm gonna do what's in my heart, and that's honestly what's led me to just finding so much more peace and, you know, and you know, it's been game changing for my mental health because, like I said, you know, just growing up, it was not good.
So what would you say to a guy like me that says, I don't believe the King James Bible has a lot to do with society today?
Well, that would be fair because it.
I have to stop you. You have something in your nose. Left side, right side. Sorry. Yeah, you can see it on cam, like clear as day. You just had it just now, so it hasn't been there till.
I've been chasing a fruit fly.
It's all
There's been like a fruit fly in here.
You're like, yo, watch out. That gets
I've been hitting the back of my head.
That gets in your nostrils, dude. That's gonna be serious.
Yeah, I know. Oh, good. Thank God.
See, yeah. See, it had to be on the other side because I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Well,
but yeah, what was your question? Sorry.
There we go. So what would you say to someone like me who thinks now the King James Bible has nothing to do with modern society?
Well, I would say that that's fair. I would say that that's fair. Obviously, it was written in a totally different time and things have changed, but you can take, you know, a lot of principles of just, you know, how to maneuver through life and apply them today in terms of, you know, just patience, loving people, not being judgmental, helping out the less fortunate. You know, to me, you can just learn so much and gain so much. You know what I mean? And I think it's directly, I think it has everything to do with today.
Yeah, well, I mean, because when you talk about the LGBTQ, and being a Jewish guy, we talk about I love pepperoni, I love bacon, I love sausage.
Yeah.
You know, I look at the Bible as how laws were written back then. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that has changed. Like, we'll keep it simple, right? Let's talk about not eating of pork. Mm-hmm. People who ate pork back then got really sick because there were no deworming procedures, there was no refrigeration, there was none of that.
Yes.
So, what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right, but yeah, you have to look at it, right? Because if you go into it right, and you don't want to be accepting of it anyway. Yeah, you're going to take all these things and you're going to say, "Oh, look at that," and it's just going to validate, right, your mindset anyway. But you look at it and you got to realize, yes, like you said, right, there was no sanitation, there was no refrigeration, and so yeah, ideally don't eat these things because it's probably going to kill you, right? And so, you know, we look at everything that we have in this world today. It wasn't back then, but at the end of the day, the way I see it, you look at these laws and all the things that's written. The goal was to separate God's people from basically the heathens, right? From the others, from the people that were doing more harm than good in the
Okay,
world.
stop right there. Who were the heathens?
Well, the people that the people that weren't accepting of the faith, right? Because ideally, and this is just my understanding, once again, I'm not a biblical scholar, but if you were accepting of the faith, you wanted to be the best version of yourself that you could be. You weren't a hypocrite. You weren't that. Right? Jesus, got into it with people of the church of that day. You know what I mean? Because they weren't. It was just all talk. It wasn't. They weren't actually living it. Living it out. And so the goal was to separate the people that wanted to be good and live a good life. Not just not even live a good life, right? It was more so being good and carry on the mission of, God's love, right? Because it's really about like sacrifice and going against we talked about the ego, right? It's going against the human, the flesh, right? The flesh going against the human. It's easier to do what you want to do than do the right thing, right? And so, but if you have discipline, right? If you have discipline, say I don't know, maybe the best example would be say the Marines, or if you're in the military. You don't want to go out there and put your life on the line, but you do it because it's about the mission, right? It's about your brother, right? And so in my mind, that's what this is about. Like, I'm a big believer that I may not see the fruit that I plant today, right? I may not see everything good that my daughters do, or see the good things that my athletes do that I work with, right? We may not be in a relationship for the duration of my life or theirs, but I'm planting that seed because I know that something good is going to come of it. And I think that is what religion is about. It's not about being comfortable or even being successful, or it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about the next man, the next person, doing good and being the example to show like what is possible for like the next iteration of our world, and that's what it is to me. That's what it means to me.
Okay, final question.
Okay.
Are you a vegan?
I was for 5 years.
A man your size is a vegan.
So okay, so hear me out, right? So for 5 years I was plant-based, right? As I got into training, I was plant-based, and I couldn't break 200 pounds, but I was really, really unhealthy before that, right? When I was in the nursing field, I was working at night, I was working overnight, and obviously your circadian rhythm is off, and and I was training and stuff like that, right? But it was just different. And so I picked up a Men's Health magazine one day, and it was all the craze back then. So had all these football players doing it and this and that. And I'm like, well, I'm a football player or ex-football player, whatever. If they can do it, I can do it, right? And I just loved it. I loved that. My recovery was great. I was just feeling better, and so I did it for 5 years, and then it was great. I was super shredded. I was 6% body fat. I mean, it was amazing. But it was during the pandemic. I basically just got bored, and Betty wanted to order some birria tacos one day. And I was like, well, I'm gonna try it, and then
Dude, you broke your veganism with burrito tacos. You ain't going back, dude.
I'm not exactly. I'm not going back. I'm not going back. And so I was like, let's see what my body can do now that I have a little bit more of a balanced mindset and approach to eating overall. And it was great. By the time I got back in the gym, by the time things opened up again, I had gained 30 pounds of muscle. Not 30 pounds, but 30 pounds of muscle, because I was still working out the same. We were walking 2 times a day. Around Miles Square Park, because she was pregnant at the time, right? So it was like it was like I was in a for lack of a better term, in a positive prison. I was just working out, eating, right, and taking care of my family. And so but that was a great journey. But now now I'm on the other side of it, and now just to try to have a balanced approach. And I'm all for it. I'm all for however you choose to eat. Just eat according to what feels good to your body.
Did your faith ever tell you during the pandemic I should go back and help out in the hospitals with the nursing?
Absolutely. So that's the thing. I'm gonna be honest. Absolutely not. I was happy that I was not in that field, because I would have had to abandon my profession or job or whatever for my family, because once again, my fiance, she was pregnant at the time. I have 2 older daughters. I have my mom that's, up there in age, and I would not have been willing to risk that for them. And I love people. I want people to be healthy, but that was my main priority. But I'm happy I didn't have to make that decision. That's a very tough decision, and I don't fault anyone who went in either direction. I don't know anyone that didn't answer the call to their job, because still got to make money, right? But also, yeah, I don't. My heart goes out to the people that had to make that decision.
Well, yeah. I mean, we could sit down and have a whole discussion about emotional labor and COVID and what nurses were going through. Forget the MDs,
Right.
but the nurses. Like, the nurses were there holding their hands when people couldn't visit in the hospital because of all that. I mean, and everyone's like, I wonder why there's no nurses anymore. Well, you just need to go back about 3 years and just see how that put kerosene on the fire.
Absolutely.
Of a profession that is very honorable, very noble, but also absolutely draining mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Absolutely. I mean, you got the nurses, right? But then you also have the nursing assistants, right? No one ever thinks about the nursing assistants, right? But they're even closer. You know what I mean? Even closer. And
well, they're the ones that clean out the bedpans. They're the ones that change the bed. They help you get up and go to the bathroom when
And so everyone's an incredible amount of risk at that time. But I mean, they are literally, you know what I mean? Like the frontline workers, you know what I mean? That are like just the first ones that go in. And so, oh man, yeah. Once again, I'm just happy that I didn't have to make that decision. And obviously, I had no foresight on what was to come.
Right.
But I'm thankful.
No one
once
did.
again, of course you couldn't. But and just real quick, you have a lot of facilities that just in my experience just didn't give a damn about the patients. And so I cannot imagine what these workers were going through in those facilities, right? Because you probably didn't have the right amount of equipment and this and that and protective stuff, right? Just to
they had to wear the same mask for 10 days.
Insane. Saying that it's effective. Such BS. So I cannot imagine.
COVID, like I said, we'll have another discussion.
Yeah.
But COVID was nothing but panic medicine.
Insane.
Absolute panic.
Insane. Yeah. I mean, now to especially know, right? Like what we know now, it's infuriating. It's infuriating. But that's for another time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that China's bought 23andMe, they're going to learn how to make an even better one. But I hope But once everything dies down on that, I don't think there's going to be enough faith or spirituality about the holy fire that's going to rain down on people.
For sure. I mean, because you think, right? Well,
because someone's going to have to do a lot of explaining one day. And there's a lot of people that knew a lot of stuff.
Or not, right? Because that's why, to me, like a lot of these things that are happening are just distractions, right? So that we don't start asking the real questions, And I'm not a conspiracy guy, but maybe I am. I don't know. But I think I don't think that day is going to come that you speak of where. You know what I mean? They're going to have to answer for the decisions or the BS that's been fed just because they want to fatten up their pockets.
Hell, we still don't know who killed JFK.
Man, come on now. Come on. I'm just saying. It's insane. It's insane. But
Willie, I want to welcome you to the platform. I'm very excited to see what you're going to bring. I'm very excited to have more crucial and deep conversations with you, and also difficult conversations, because there's a lot of things that I believe people really have questions about and really need to get answers. And I think for you to be a soundboard for them is going to be awesome. Also want to thank you for everything you're doing for the youth athletes, because we've talked about how important that is for me as well. So I want to thank all of you for listening, and we will catch you next time.